At least historically, a college degree has offered a major premium in earnings, but it hasn't required you to work in your major. And most people with college degrees end up not working in fields related to what they did in undergrad at all. And so the question is, why is there this big earnings premium, at least historically, if it's not about the knowledge you get in college about how to actually do your job? And Bryan Caplan, in The Case Against Education, provides, I think it's pretty clear that this is the answer, which is that a college education signals three things. It signals that you are smart enough to get into college, conventional enough to go, and diligent enough to finish. And if you look at employers, like when they're hiring for the big five personality traits, they're usually hiring for agreeableness and conscientiousness, which are conventionality and diligence. And so, having a college degree, according to Caplan, signals that you have some minimum quantity of these three traits. And he makes a pretty compelling case in the book with the data. And the thing that I think is likely to surprise most people is that even with STEM degrees, that is science, technology, engineering, and math, that 93% of the earnings premium comes from having the degree itself and not from what you actually studied. It's only 7% of a STEM degree is actually a premium for STEM education. And nowadays, I've been seeing statistics claiming that either a college degree isn't worthwhile, or some of them aren't worthwhile, or they're not worthwhile for Gen Z men, and that might be because of trades. So this may not apply currently, but I will say, after reading this book, I would ask people who hired for jobs requiring college degrees, hey, what do you think about this hypothesis? And they would always think about it for a minute and then be like, yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. That's why we require them. And so, as Bryan Caplan says, on an individual level, at least historically, it made sense to get a college degree. And now we're seeing credential inflation with masters is increasingly becoming, even a master's degree is increasingly becoming less valuable than a college degree was 30 years ago. And there's sort of an expectation, a lot of jobs you'll have some masters, typically like an MBA, Master's in Business Administration, which is a pretty useless degree in terms of what it has. And I've basically met two kinds of people who have MBAs. One of them are people who did an MBA because they didn't know what else to do and typically came from an affluent background. And the other kind are people who were really good at what they did, but the employers were like, hey, we need you to have an MBA for like credentialing reasons, like to satisfy our people in terms of hiring, but we'll pay for you to get an MBA. And so they did it, which I hope I'm never in that situation. And it's interesting because I've realized people have accused me of talking like an MBA before in conversations, or like talking in business jargon. And I've realized it's because I think that MBA programs, it's a game of telephone. So they take these psychological and other social science concepts that I'm already familiar with, and they simplify and distort them for their audience. And then employers go and simplify and distort them further, which is how you end up with, I'll have stories about this in the future. But the point of this book is basically, it was worthwhile on an individual level, but on a collective level, it's wasting a lot of time. And it's actually interesting. It's kind of similar to the imperial examination system in China, which I will talk about in a future video, which was sort of a similar thing where it was studying irrelevant, useless stuff, studying the Chinese classics, but it showed that you were able to follow the conventional route and do well enough to pass the examination. And it was supposedly about having a common Confucian cultural background. That was the principle, but it seems to have operated a lot like what Caplan is describing here. And so the other thing is, Caplan is in this book, he's talking about, one thing that you see is there is a huge premium for completing a degree versus not. So like I did 2 years of a PhD, but it was a direct PhD. I didn't do a master's along the way. And so I didn't get credit for finishing 2 years of a PhD, and that matters to employers a lot less than a master's degree. Like, usually there's not even an option to say, yeah, I did 2 years of a PhD program, but I don't have a master's. And I've seen from experience, potential employers don't think much of 2 years of an unfinished PhD versus a master's degree, even if it's a useless master's like an MBA, because it's about signaling. And so I just wanted to share this idea because I think it's useful to understand, and it may be irrelevant for some people now. It's not clear, but this is the reason that college degrees have paid a premium, and it's why what you major in doesn't matter a lot. STEM degrees have a slight premium. Again, 7% of a STEM degree is a premium for the knowledge you have itself, and some STEM degrees that's higher, some it's less. But basically, I just wanted to explain this concept, and if you are curious or skeptical and you know people who hire for jobs like this, I encourage you to ask them, hey, why do you require a college degree, and tell them about Caplan's hypothesis that it is basically signaling that you are smart enough to get into college, conventional enough to go, and diligent enough to finish. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'm Magpie. This is Zuli, and I will see y'all in the next one. Yeah, I love you, Zulibird. Do not eat my microphone, please. Do not eat my microphone.